Welcome back to Ageless Mind and Body, the space where we honor life after 65 with calm clarity and quiet strength. Have you ever noticed that the more you share with family, the less peace you seem to have? You open up from a place of love, wanting to stay close, to stay honest, but suddenly your choices are questioned, your independence feels fragile, and your life becomes an open discussion. It's not that your family doesn't care, it's that love, especially in later life, can come bundled with expectations, judgments, and opinions you didn't ask for. And sometimes the wisest thing you can do is hold a little back. In today's video, we're talking about 5 things you should never feel obligated to share with your family after 65, not because you're hiding something, but because your peace is worth protecting. If you've ever felt drained after opening up or wished you'd stayed quiet just a little longer, this message is for you. Let's get into it. 1. Your full financial details. As we move through the later chapters of life, something interesting happens. People begin to assume that because you're older, you should start handing over the reins to your decisions, your plans, your time, and most notably, your finances. It can come from a place of love, a place of worry, or even just habit. But whatever the reason, there's an unspoken pressure that you should share every detail of your financial life with your family. And today, I want to gently but firmly say, you don't have to. Your finances are personal. They always have been. The money you've earned, saved, spent, and invested over a lifetime tells a very intimate story of your choices, your values, your sacrifices, and your dreams. It reflects the work you put in, the lessons you learned, and the path you carved out for yourself. That story is yours. And while your family may love and support you, they're not automatically entitled to every chapter of it. Sharing your full financial picture, every account, every investment, every asset, might seem like a responsible or transparent thing to do. In some cases, especially when it comes to estate planning or emergency contacts, it can be smart to loop in a trusted person. But that's very different from feeling like you owe your family a full breakdown of what you have, what you make, and how you spend it. Because the truth is, once that information is out there, it changes things. Even the most well-meaning relatives can start to offer opinions about what you should be doing, how you should be spending, or what you shouldn't be wasting your money on. Suddenly, you may find yourself defending perfectly reasonable choices, taking a trip, hiring help, giving to causes you care about, or treating yourself to something nice. What was once a private decision becomes a family debate. And that kind of scrutiny can chip away at your confidence, your freedom, and your peace of mind. There's also the subtle shift in power that happens when your financial details become too public within the family. For some, it can bring out control. People may start making suggestions that feel more like instructions. They might use your money situation to question your judgment or try to step into a caretaker role you didn't ask for. It might be small at first, a raised eyebrow here, a comment there, but over time that erosion of autonomy can take a real toll. And then there's pressure. If your finances are healthy, there might be quiet expectations that you'll step in to help others bail out a struggling adult child, fund a grandchild's education, or contribute to things you weren't planning for. If your finances are tight, you might feel ashamed or judged, even if you've done the very best you could. In either case, what's meant to be a private matter becomes a source of stress, guilt, or tension. And that's not what your later years are for. Maintaining privacy over your finances isn't about being secretive or selfish. It's about protecting your independence. It's about giving yourself the breathing room to make decisions that feel right for you, not decisions that are shaped by outside voices or subtle obligations. You've spent decades managing your money, learning from mistakes, celebrating wins, and adapting along the way. That experience didn't vanish the day you turned 65. In fact, it's more valuable than ever. If and when the time comes to involve family in your financial matters, whether it's assigning a power of attorney, creating a will, or preparing for long-term care, do it thoughtfully. Choose someone you trust, someone who respects your boundaries, and someone who understands that supporting you doesn't mean taking over. Until then, remember your money, your choices, your peace. You've earned the right to live with dignity, clarity, and freedom. And that includes keeping certain things like your full financial details just for yourself. 2. Minor health issues. As we grow older, our bodies inevitably speak to us in new ways. A twinge in the back, a little less stamina on a long walk, an afternoon nap that feels more like a necessity than a luxury. These small changes are part of life. We notice them, adjust to them, and most of the time, carry on. But what happens when we mention these little things out loud to family A? Simple "I didn't sleep well," or "my knees are acting up again," can suddenly turn into concern, overreaction, and, in many cases, a loss of independence. It's one of those things that happens with the best intentions. A loved one hears that you've been feeling a bit off, and the alarm bells start ringing. They want to help. They want to protect you. And before you know it, your grown child is sending you articles about supplements, checking in with daily texts, or suggesting you move in with them all because you casually mentioned a sore shoulder. What was a passing comment becomes a red flag in their eyes, and suddenly you're being treated as fragile. This can be frustrating. You're not ignoring your health. You're aware of your body and your limits. You probably learned more about pain tolerance, stamina, and recovery than anyone half your age. But when you vocalize a minor health issue, it can be misinterpreted as a call for help, when really you were just making conversation. And this is where the subtle loss of autonomy can begin. When others start to view you through the lens of decline, it shifts the relationship. Decisions you used to make easily on your own, what to eat, how far to walk, whether to drive at night, suddenly come under gentle, persistent scrutiny. People mean well, but the message can be clear. You can't be trusted to fully manage yourself anymore. And even if it's never said aloud, it's felt. In the way they hover, in the way they second guess, in the way they start making suggestions that sound more like instructions. It's a slippery slope, and one that many people don't see coming. We're taught to be open with family, to share how we're doing. But with age, even the smallest updates can be taken out of proportion. That's why protecting your independence sometimes means being selective with what you share. It's not about hiding things. It's about understanding the difference between information that's useful and information that simply invites worry where none is needed. So, what does that balance look like? It means saving the serious concerns, persistent symptoms, major diagnoses, new medications, for the moments that require real attention or planning. It means bringing others in when their help will truly support your quality of life, not disrupt it. And it means giving yourself permission to keep the minor stuff, the stiffness, the fatigue, the off days, just for yourself unless or until you feel they're worth sharing. This doesn't make you dishonest. It makes you empowered. You're not pretending to be invincible. You're simply choosing to manage your health with the wisdom and discretion you've earned. You know when something's worth a trip to the doctor, and you know when it just needs rest, hydration, or a little patience. That kind of self-knowledge is powerful. Don't let it be undermined by well-meaning overreaction. Remember, the goal isn't to isolate yourself, it's to stay in the driver's seat. You're allowed to have off days, you're allowed to slow down, and you're absolutely allowed to decide how, when, and with whom you share those experiences. Independence isn't just physical, it's emotional too. It's the right to live your life with dignity without being wrapped in bubble wrap or managed from the sidelines. So the next time you feel a small ache or wave of tiredness, ask yourself, do I need support right now, or do I just need a cup of tea and a quiet afternoon? Most of the time, you'll know the answer. And when you do, trust yourself because you've earned that trust. 3. Involvement in family conflicts. There's something deeply human about wanting to keep the peace, especially within our own family. When disagreements arise between siblings, children, or extended relatives, our instinct may be to step in to offer perspective to help fix the situation. After all, we've seen more lived, more, and often understand the bigger picture better than those caught up in the heat of the moment. But offering opinions, even with the best of intentions, can quickly become a double-edged sword. It starts innocently enough. One family member vents to you about another. They confide their frustrations, maybe seeking comfort or validation. You listen, you empathize. Maybe you say something supportive like, "I understand why you'd feel that way," or "they should have handled it differently." And just like that, without realizing it, you're no longer neutral. You've entered the story. You've taken a side whether you meant to or not. In families, especially close ones, lines are often blurred between support and involvement. But once you've spoken, those words can echo. Maybe the person you tried to help feels empowered, or maybe they twist your comment and share it with others. Suddenly, your name is mentioned in a conversation you never wanted to be a part of. Tension grows. Relationships shift. You become seen not as a wise, steady presence, but as another player in the conflict. It's a painful and all too common dynamic. Even when you're trying to be fair, even when your advice is thoughtful and well-balanced, someone may still feel misunderstood, betrayed, or judged. You may be accused of favoritism. You may find yourself caught in the middle of a storm you didn't create, but are now partially responsible for simply because you spoke. That's why in many cases, silence is not only the safer path, it's the wiser one. Staying out of family conflicts doesn't mean you don't care. Quite the opposite. It means you care deeply enough to recognize that your role isn't to mediate, correct, or control, but to maintain connection and stability. Relationships, especially with those we love most, are fragile. They can fray under the weight of resentment, suspicion, and misinterpreted intentions. Remaining neutral helps preserve your position as a trusted, safe presence for everyone involved. And neutrality isn't the same as cold attachment. You can still be compassionate. You can listen. You can hold space for someone to express their feelings without offering judgment or taking a stance. Simple phrases like, "I hear you," or "that sounds difficult," allow people to feel seen and supported without dragging you into the middle. Sometimes what your family members need most isn't a solution. It's simply to be heard without consequence. Of course, there may be moments where stepping in is necessary in cases of harm abuse or situations where someone's well-being is truly at risk. But those are exceptions, not the rule. Most family disagreements are temporary, fueled by ego misunderstanding or old emotional baggage. They flare up, and if given the space, they often settle on their own. But if you insert yourself, your presence can actually delay the healing or worse, create long-term divisions. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's strategic. It's how you preserve your own mental and emotional well-being and how you stay available as a source of calm when the dust eventually settles. People may even come to respect you more, seeing that you don't gossip, don't take sides, and don't play favorites. You become a quiet anchor, steady, grounded, and deeply respected. So the next time a family member tries to pull you into a disagreement, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this my battle to fight or a moment to stay centered and protect the harmony I've worked hard to build? More often than not, the answer is clear. Peace isn't passive. It's a choice, and sometimes silence is the strongest voice of all. 4. Deep personal regrets. There's something universally human about looking back, reflecting on what could have been, what choices we might have made differently, the paths not taken. As we get older, those reflections come more often, sometimes quietly, in the stillness of the day, other times in conversation with those closest to us. And while speaking honestly about the past can be healing, sharing deep regrets with family, especially children or grandchildren, can have unintended emotional consequences. When you speak of dreams you never pursued, relationships that didn't work out, or years spent in unfulfilling roles, your loved ones may hear more than just your reflection. They may hear that they were somehow part of the problem, that their presence wasn't enough to bring you joy, or that your sacrifices for them led to a life you now mourn. Even if that isn't what you meant, the message can land in ways that create guilt, sadness, or a quiet sense of burden. For example, saying, "I wish I'd traveled more before settling down," might seem harmless. But to a child or grandchild, it might translate as, "I regret the life I had with you." Or sharing, "I should have taken that job offer and moved to another city," might leave someone feeling like the life you did build, the one they've always been a part of, wasn't really what you wanted. These interpretations may be subtle and unspoken, but they linger. Over time, they can create emotional distance or even a sense of failure, as if your family couldn't make you happy. That's why it's often kinder to both yourself and your loved ones to reframe your reflections. Instead of dwelling on the past with a tone of loss, share the wisdom those moments have given you. Talk about what you've learned, how you've grown, and what those experiences taught you about resilience, purpose, and love. Instead of saying, "I regret not doing this," try saying, "I've come to realize how important that is, and now I make it part of my life every day." This shift may seem small, but it's powerful. It changes the energy of the conversation from one of absence to one of presence. It allows your loved ones to connect with your journey without feeling responsible for your pain. And most importantly, it protects your own peace. Because while regret is a natural part of life, clinging to it too tightly only deepens emotional wounds, both yours and others. There's also a quiet strength in keeping some regrets private. Not every reflection needs to be shared aloud. Some are best kept between you and your journal, your closest confidant, or simply held with gentle compassion in your own heart. Privacy doesn't mean denial. It means protecting the emotional well-being of those around you and choosing when and how to share stories that carry emotional weight. And remember, to your family, you are more than your past. You are a living example of what it means to keep going, to adapt to love, despite everything life has thrown your way. Your presence, wise, steady, and thoughtful, is far more meaningful than any perfect past could ever be. Sharing your experiences as growth, not regret, allows your story to uplift and inspire, not wound or worry. So when those reflections arise, as they always do, pause before speaking. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to share going to help my loved ones feel more connected or more conflicted? If the answer isn't clear, lead with the lesson, not the lament. In doing so, you honor your own journey and theirs with grace and intention. 5. Detailed plans for dividing assets. It's natural to want to be transparent with family when it comes to your legacy. After all, you've spent a lifetime building a life, accumulating not just possessions, but meaning and memories behind each one. And as you begin to make plans for what happens after you're gone, the desire to explain your decisions to be fair or to avoid future conflict can feel like the responsible thing to do. But when it comes to sharing the finer details of how your assets will be divided, more openness isn't always better. The truth is, money, even when tied to love, has a way of complicating relationships. Sharing specifics about who will receive what can unintentionally stir feelings of competition, resentment, or entitlement. A child who receives less might feel unloved. A relative who receives more might be judged. Even if your choices are rooted in logic or circumstance, emotions don't always follow that same reasoning. What begins as an effort to provide clarity can end in discomfort disputes or pressure to change your plans. Even worse, premature discussions about inheritances can lead to subtle or not so subtle shifts in behavior. Family members may try to influence your decisions, question your judgment, or insert themselves into your affairs under the guise of helping. It can blur boundaries and chip away at your sense of independence. And the last thing you deserve in this chapter of life is to feel managed, second-guessed, or treated like a transaction. That's why keeping some financial decisions private is not secrecy, it's wisdom. A thoughtfully prepared will, supported by clear legal documentation, communicates your intentions far more effectively than family discussions ever could. It ensures your wishes are honored without the emotional turbulence that often accompanies those conversations. It also relieves your loved ones from feeling they need to measure up to expectations or prove their worth in your eyes. Remember, too, your legacy is far greater than your bank account. While inheritances may provide temporary comfort, it's the values you've passed down, your kindness, your resilience, your humor, your wisdom that will shape your family for generations. The memories you've created together, the lessons you've shared, and the love you've given freely are far more powerful than anything that can be written into a will. If you do feel the need to speak with family about your plans, consider sharing the why behind your choices rather than the what. Emphasize your desire for peace, unity, and respect among them when the time comes. Reassure them that everything is being handled fairly and legally with the intention of protecting not just your estate, but the relationships that matter most. That reassurance delivered with clarity and calm can do more to soothe than the exact numbers or items ever could. Ultimately, your final gift to your family isn't just what you leave behind, it's how you leave them feeling at peace, respected, united. And in that way, your legacy becomes something much richer than possessions. It becomes the continuation of everything you stood for in life. Final message. As we move into the later chapters of life, peace becomes more than just a luxury. It becomes a necessity. It's the quiet confidence of knowing who you are, what you value, and what you choose to protect. That doesn't mean holding back love or shutting people out. It means honoring your mental and emotional space as much as you've honored others over the years. Not everything needs to be shared. Not every detail needs to be explained. You've lived, learned, and given so much, and now you deserve the freedom to be selective. What you choose to share should come from a place of trust, not obligation. When the timing feels right, when the person has earned that closeness, and when it serves your well-being, then you can speak. Until then, silence can be just as loving. You don't owe anyone an open book. Your life isn't up for review. You've earned your peace, your privacy, and your autonomy. Let go of guilt, release the pressure to explain, and embrace the calm that comes from living on your own terms. This chapter is yours, and it can be the most peaceful one yet.